Elliotte Friedman's blazing hot take on who the Canucks could bring back has minds swirling, and these road trip roster moves are sure to excite and intrigue all Vancouver fans as the Canucks head out on a lengthy East Coast road trip. We're going to be breaking down all of that in this episode of Canucks Digest, but first make sure to hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon so you don't miss any and all updates surrounding the Canucks as we head off on this lengthy road trip. And with that, let's hop in the first topic of the day, which is Friedman floats out Zadorov. So on today's episode of the 32 Thoughts podcast, Elliotte Friedman floated out saying, "Weird idea that may only make sense to me. Nikita Zadorov back to Vancouver. No idea if even possible or if anyone would want it, but he was a good fit and the Canucks miss him." So we all know what happened with Nikita Zadorov last season. He was nicknamed Big Z, became a fan favorite in Vancouver after being acquired from the Flames midway through last season. His physical playstyle and unexpected offensive contributions shown during the playoffs, where he tallied 4 goals and 8 points in 13 games against Nashville and Edmonton. Despite Vancouver's interest in keeping him over the offseason, reportedly offering a 4-year contract at $4.6 million per year, the 6'6" Russian defender opted for a 6-year deal worth $5 million annually with the Boston Bruins. While his departure was disappointing for fans, the Canucks front office was cautious about overcommitting to a player with limited long-term upside and recency bias, as Zadorov was coming off of a phenomenal playoff run. So this was something that we covered at length over the course of the offseason. All the things with Nikita Zadorov pricing himself out, the things that Canucks were offering, things he was saying in the media, and even just the things he said afterwards since going over to Boston from Vancouver. Now, if this makes sense for Vancouver, it only makes sense in the sense that, yes, Vancouver's defensive core is hurting, and he played well with Vancouver. Yes, Boston is a dumpster fire right now. They have a lot of stuff to figure out. Hopefully, if this is something that Vancouver can just take advantage of and poach Zadorov back from him just to bring him back on a 1-year rental, cool. But then you have to worry about the ramifications. We're back in the same place that we were last offseason, where we'd have to just figure out what we can do with him, or we take on his lengthy contract that we didn't want to end up paying him, obviously, because we didn't offer him $5 million a year. We offered him 4.6. So if he's coming back for that, we're just losing that money that we didn't want to lose in the first place. Yeah, we get eventually what we want, but we lose the money on it. And the only way I can see it making sense is if they unload somebody like Tyler Myers, which would make fans very angry. He's a very big fan favorite, even though he hasn't had the greatest season after coming off of an extension. So who do you move out in that other instance? Okay, Carson Soucy. He also is loved by fans, and that Myers-Soucy combo is great, but this season just hasn't gotten going. So if you move him and Nils Höglander out, you can offload some of that contract, and if you put JT Miller on LTIR, or if they get exempt by having him in a non-roster spot, maybe you open up some cap space, but it's only for a short period of time, because Miller is going to eventually come back once everything gets sorted out with him. Hopefully he's all right. But once he comes back, then you would have another financial just dilemma to look at, where it's just going to be a dumpster fire like Boston is in right now, just not as far as wins and losses are concerned, but just financially. And Patrik Allvin just probably does not want that. So while fans probably would be excited about Big Z coming back, despite all the things he said in the media, whether it was just to make a story out of it or because he actually believed it, I think fans have kind of not necessarily burned the Zadorov jerseys, so to speak, but they've kind of gotten over it. We've been through that song and dance. We know where that just whole thing leads to. It ends with us paying more money than we want to, and just not having Zadorov for as long as he would probably like to be in Vancouver, and not getting paid what he wants to, unless Vancouver takes on the contract that he has. But again, this just does not make sense for the Canucks. I think it's a far cry. Personally, I would love to see Zadorov back in Vancouver. However, if what it's going to take to get him is what it seems to be, absolutely not. I would not be wanting to give those up. If we're having to move on from someone like Carson Soucy or Tyler Myers just to make more cap space, that would be something where it would be very unfortunate, especially at the expense of bringing back Zadorov, where there was a lot of drama with it. Yes, there was some success, but there was some recency bias, like that article said, which led to a lot of things in the offseason and him just pricing himself out, just like Elias Lindholm did. They both went to Boston, and Boston's a dumpster fire now, so that's their problem now, not ours. So let's try and continue to keep it that way. But what do you guys think down in the comments? Would you like to see Zadorov back? And if it takes what it seems like it would take, probably Nils Höglander and a defenseman or some draft capital, and having to take on a weighty contract, What do you guys think of that move down below? Would love to hear what you guys have to say, but that's going to take us into the second topic of the day, which is road trip roster moves. So in an announcement made by Patrik Allvin today, that forward Jonathan Lekkerimäki has been assigned to Abbotsford and Max Sasson has been recalled from Abbotsford. And this is coming off of the Canucks calling Lekkerimäki up after his first season in North America. Got off to a blistering start. Through 7 AHL games this season, the sharpshooting winger has tallied 5 goals and 2 assists. After some injury troubles with the big club, namely Brock Boeser, Lekkerimäki received his first NHL call-up. Upon arrival, the Canucks used him in the top 6 alongside JT Miller. Lekkerimäki did not look out of place per se, but it was evident he had some things to fine-tune before he was quite ready to be an NHL regular. Before his first NHL stint was over, Lekkerimäki did manage to score his first NHL goal, a beauty snipe off the rush against New York Islanders in his second career game. So Lekkerimäki has been able to prove himself and as to why he belongs on this Vancouver Canucks roster. If not full-time this year, definitely next year or within the next 2 years, absolutely. And proving that he is what the Vancouver Canucks signed up for when they went out and drafted him. So yes, he didn't have a great game last game. He played solid. He has been playing fairly well since he got to the NHL. But again, this is a team where we're going to see a lot of rotation coming in from these AHL guys just to give them their opportunity. We saw this with Archdeep Baines to start the year. He had a really nice little stretch there where he got a lot of games in. Then we put him back down, just bringing him back sparingly. Aatu Räty is getting his opportunities. Now it's time to see what Max Sasson is made of this season and see what he can bring to the table. And speaking of Max Sasson, he is a center that the Canucks organization is quite high on. Fans really love him as well. Signed on after his collegiate career came to an end in 2023, Sasson had something of a breakout year in his first full season in North America last season. Through 56 AHL games, Sasson tallied 18 goals and 24 assists while proving to be a responsible player playing in any situation. So this is somebody that is going to be multifaceted, going to be a bit of a Swiss Army knife, and can be adaptable to any situation, especially when we're going to be going on this road trip against these Eastern Conference teams where it's going to be on the road, it's going to be in the Midwest, it's cold, it's muggy. I'm in the Midwest, I'm in Windsor, Ontario, right across from Detroit, and I can tell you that the weather today was absolutely miserable. I know they're not playing outside, but it still plays a factor mentally on these players when they're traveling from city to city, and the sky is just always gray consistently. There's no change, so it feels like there's no light at the end of the tunnel until they get back in Vancouver in a couple of weeks. But this is all just going to be something that the Canucks are going to have to battle on this road trip. And the Canucks are set to fly out to the nation's capital today as they get set to kick off a 6-game road trip on Saturday night with a matchup against the Ottawa Senators. After that, they head to Boston to face the Bruins before making the trip to Pittsburgh to take on the Penguins in back-to-back nights. Kind of ironic that they're playing against Elias Lindholm and Nikita Zadorov, then going to play against Marcus Pettersson, who we were kind of talking about them bringing in. The Canucks will close out the road trip with final stops in Buffalo, Detroit, and Minnesota. With those latter two, Mark and I are trying to plan something fun out to see what we can do as far as those games and trying to interact with fans. But the Canucks will be doing so without Lekkerimäki, JT Miller, and potentially Brock Boeser and Derek Forbort as well. Thatcher Demko skated yesterday as he continues his road to recovery from a knee injury. But in speaking of Brock Boeser, he is traveling. Now, in our video yesterday, we said that if Brock Boeser is traveling, he's going to be playing. So he is traveling. He is likely going to be playing probably on Saturday against Ottawa. If not that game, definitely the game afterwards. But it is going to be an awesome show to see Brock Boeser back out on the ice, back there into the game. We knew that Tocchet said that if he was traveling, he was playing. If he wasn't traveling, obviously he's not going to play anytime soon. So him traveling, if it's not the first game, probably the second game. If not the second game, definitely the third game. But it's just a matter of what Brock Boeser's impact will be. It's going to be awesome to get him back. Can't wait to see it. I know that was just a little thing to tack on there at the end, but it is big nonetheless. But what do you guys think about this road trip up ahead? What games do you think we're going to be able to steal? What ones are going to be dominant wins? And what ones do you think are going to be trap games or ones that we might not get away from unscathed? Love to hear what you guys have to say down in the comments. That's going to take us into our final topic of the day, which is comment of the day. We see here from Big Fella 12 say, need to break up the Soucy Myers pair. Hopefully Marcus Pettersson from Pittsburgh for Höglander in a fourth or something. The first part of this statement, I definitely agree. Break up the Myers and Soucy pairing. Has not worked out at all this season. Erik Brannstrom, the franchise as people have been calling him, ever since he came over from Colorado, people thought that he wasn't going to be anything, and he has just been a shining star of this team, like Kiefer Sherwood has been in the forwards. Brannstrom has been that for the defenseman, the second best defenseman on the team, only behind Quinn Hughes. And a lot of people we're just upset about the move, but we got him for nothing. We got rid of Tocchet, who never played a game for us, and now we've already seen a great return out of Brannstrom just by getting one shift in alone. So Brannstrom has been great. Move him up into the second pairing, move one of those guys down, or yes, move on from them. Go get a guy who is a surety that can be one of those shutdown guys on the second pairing. As far as if it's Nils Höglander, I don't know necessarily. Maybe you do move Carson Soucy. I don't know. Or you just move him down on the third line. Maybe you move Höglander and Forber or Juleson maybe. I know Juleson is something that might appeal to some teams. But what do you guys have to say down in the comments? Who would you move to go get that sure thing at defense? Love to hear what you guys have to say down in the comments. But if you like this episode, leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell icon so you don't miss any of the road trip updates. We're going to be covering it all this week, and we might have something very special planned for you guys near the end of this road trip. So stay tuned for that. You don't want to miss it. But that's going to do it for this episode of Canucks Digest. I've been your host, Griffin. Take care.